Hello, brothers and sisters. I'm back with my next in line video on Hinduism, introducing you to Hinduism. It's a very, very, very large topic. And so today's my topic is, does the Bhagavad Gita promote the caste system? Now, this topic is something which is going to be could be disturbing to people, and some people might take offense. So if you are one of them, don't watch. Just stop and go away. Or, of course, make your feelings more stronger. This is something which is where we sit and discuss what is taught in the scriptures themselves. I look forward to an open dialogue. If there is somebody who wants to have a debate with us, write on the email address that you can see below. Moving ahead. It's an interesting topic. So the question becomes, why this topic? Well, as you can see, this is just today's newspaper. This is just one of the articles in today's newspaper. It is the 6th of August 2025 and I'm recording this video. And this is, you see, a man in the state of Bihar was killed because it was an intercaste marriage. So the girl's father literally shot the man in front of his own daughter. The man died, but this was all because the girl married into a different caste. Then you see another one. Bonded laborers. Can you believe bonded laborers? In other words, slaves were released from a place they were kept in the city of Pune. Now, Pune is like 100 miles from the city of Mumbai, as you must be knowing, is the financial capital of the country of India. So it is not like a remote tribal area somewhere in the mountains. This is a bustling town. You can look it up yourself on the net. And over there were the people who were living in bonded slavery, and they were set free by NGOs, 12 bonded laborers, including 7 children. Then you also see that as per the Global Slavery Index, India is the largest slave market in the world. Can you believe that? Today is 2025. This was, I believe, in 2023, but it's not been much of a change because, as we just saw, bonded laborers were released from the city of Pune. So India accounts for the largest portion of slaves in the modern world, and as per the statistics by the Global Slavery Index, it is 8 people per 1,000 in India. So just imagine 8 people in every 1,000 people on an average. And they quote verses like Bhagwad Gita chapter 4, verse 13. And to be honest with you, I used to think that way myself too. And this is like a personal confession. I used to think myself that, okay, as per scholars, the Bhagavad Gita was finished writing somewhere around the 6th to the 8th century AD, not BC. Many people believe it's written thousands of years back. No, it is not. So it was written over a long period of time, which typically people believe that it was somewhere around the 6th century or the 8th century that it was finally concluded, the writings. But still, that part aside, the Bhagavad Gita was something that many people look up to. And my earliest interaction with the Bhagavad Gita was when I first came to Christ, and he was a very elderly pastor. He was like literally an ex-Muslim, a very vociferous Muslim who became a Christian, and he became a pastor. And then I asked him some questions in the book of Proverbs and other areas, and then he said, "Have you read the Gita?" I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "You should. It contains a huge amount of wisdom and knowledge." Must be. I never read it, to be precise, at that time. And then, of course, in the pop culture of India and of course in the world, there are many verses that is spoken on a day-to-day basis without, of course, the references. So there is Gita chapter 2 verse 27, you came empty-handed and you leave empty-handed. That's like a very popularly known slogan. And then Gita chapter 2 verse 11, the wise grieve neither for the living nor for the dead. Then there is Gita chapter 6 verse 6, the mind is both friend and enemy to the self. Then there is Gita chapter 15 verse 5, those who are free from pride, delusion and attachment attain liberation. Then listen to this, that is Gita chapter 18 verse 47, better to live your own dharma imperfectly than to live others perfectly. So, this gets interpreted in the way that you should do what you're good at, and which is a good business lesson, which is a good life lesson. So abandon all varieties of dharma and just surrender unto me and I shall deliver you from all sin. Gita 18 verse 66. And this, if I might say this, sounds almost biblical, where God says that, just give up everything, just come to me and I will take care of all your sins. And then the Indian Olympic shooter who won the bronze medal at the Paris Olympics recently last year, Manu Bhaker, she also quoted the Bhagavad Gita, where it says, Gita chapter 2 verse 47, perform your duty, but do not concern yourself with the results. That is very sound knowledge, that just do what you're supposed to be doing. Leave the fruits in the hands of God. Good. That sounded biblical to me. And then again, Gita chapter 2 2 verse 48, be steadfast in yoga, O Arjuna, perform your duty and abandon all attachment to success or failure. Again, beautiful business lesson for life. And all this reminded me of chapter 6 verse 33 of the book of Matthew in the Holy Bible, which says that seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Somewhere it sounded like that. So we had done also a program, you can see the link above, where we have shown how the Hindu texts have progressively grown by encroaching and taking content from the biblical scriptures. So that aside, good. So I thought maybe that could be the reason. Maybe it's picked up some content from the Bible, no problem. Let people learn. But then we have Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, one of my favorite writers. And he says in BAWS, Baba Sahib Ambedkar Writings and Speeches, BAWS as it is called, Volume 3, Part 3, Revolution, Counter-Revolution, Chapter 13, Krishna and his Gita. And he says, Gita is Manu in a nutshell. That the Manusmriti, with start to end, it speaks about how the caste system is supposed to work, how you're supposed to oppress the Dalits and the caste and the Shudras and all those people. So that's what he said. And then he says, to say that killing, it's no killing because what is killed is the body and not the soul, is an unheard of defense of murder. This is one of the doctrines which make many people say that the doctrines makes one hair stand on end. And if Krishna were to appear as a lawyer acting for a client who is being tried for murder, pleaded the defense set out by him in the Bhagavad Gita, there is not the slightest doubt that he will be sent to the lunatic asylum. That is Baba Sahib Ambedkar on the same Gita for which the verses are read earlier. Then again he goes on to say, my answer is that the Bhagavad Gita is neither a book of religion nor a treatise or philosophy. What the Bhagavad Gita does is to defend certain dogmas of religion on philosophic grounds. If on that account anyone wants to call it a book of religion or a book of philosophy, he may please himself. But essentially it is neither. It uses philosophy to defend religion. Now this sounded like very contrasting with what the Gita actually says and what is spoken about in pop culture. So what could be it? And then of course I couldn't just let go of what was written by Baba Sahib Ambedkar because he's literally the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He's literally the father of the Indian Constitution. I've given his introduction and his background quite a few times in all my programs. You should read his book Annihilation of Caste, a brilliant speech that has been converted into a book. Of course, it was a speech that he never gave. It is just brilliant. I cannot imagine how some person in the 1950s did that phenomenal amount of research and put such phenomenal amount of thought process and could come up with that. So just to give you a background, there are 3 episodes that I've covered till now, and you should go through it. If you're not, you should go through it, and it will really help you understand this episode. And in case you have not yet subscribed to our channel, just click on the subscribe button and the bell icon to be updated at all times. And of course, do leave a share, do click on the like button and leave a comment. That really helps boost the morale of the team. Alright, moving ahead. We have the Manusmriti. Now we read about the Gita, then we have the Manusmriti. We first saw what the Gita had to say, then we saw what Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar had to say. Now let's see what the Manusmriti has to say, because Dr. Ambedkar said that Gita is nothing more than Manusmriti in a nutshell. So here it is. In Manusmriti chapter 2 verse 31, it says that the first part of a Brahmana's name denotes something auspicious, something good. A Kshatriya be connected with power, a Vaishya with wealth, and a Shudra with something contemptible. The second part of a Brahmana's name shall be a word implying happiness, a Kshatriya a word implying protection, of a Vaishya expressive of thriving, and of a Shudra denoting service. So the question is, when is the name given to a child? At the time of birth, right? It is not something that is given after you realize what has been the skill sets of the child, whether the child would be a skilled artisan or a skilled warrior or a skilled businessman or a skilled scholar. We don't know. So how is the name given at the time of birth? And then again in the Manusmriti, it speaks about that in the 8th year after conception, one should perform the initiation of a Brahmana. So it gives over here also that is, there is something called as a thread ceremony that I've seen happen for my cousin also, because as you might remember, I'd said in my previous episodes that my mother is high class Brahmin. Of course, when I use the word class, even in Brahmin, even in these 4 castes, there are subcastes. There could be a low level Brahmin and a high level Brahmin. So my mother comes from a very high level Brahmin. God's grace, she's a Christian now. She believes in Christ much more than I do. Of course, I do believe in Christ. That doesn't mean I don't. Because of her, I'm a Christian, because of her upbringing, the way she taught me and everything. So that's a different story. So here it says that in the 8th year after conception, they should perform the initiation of a Brahmana. 11th year for a Kshatriya, 12th of a Vaishya. You see, it never even speaks about a Shudra. Doesn't have the right of initiation. And look at this. Know that a Brahmana of 10 years and a Kshatriya of 100 years stand to each other in the relation of a father and a son. But between those two, the Brahmana is the father. So a 10-year-old boy who's a Brahmin standing next to an old guy, very maybe an accomplished warrior who's 100 years old, the 10-year-old boy would be considered as a father, so much high in stature than the 100-year-old Kshatriya warrior. So that's how it is in the caste system. So this is basically on the basis of birth and not really on the basis of what you can do and what is your skill sets. And so then we see again Manusmriti 5 chapter 104, we see, let him not allow a dead Brahmana to be carried out by Shudra while men men of the same caste are at hand, for that burnt offering which is defiled by Shudras touch is detrimental to heaven. So this is a simple question. So for those people who believe that caste system is basically on the basis of the background or the skill sets of a person and not based on birth, how is this possible? So let's assume a son is designated to a life of service and he's a Shudra, therefore he's a Shudra, cleaning out the places and maybe washing dishes in some places and stuff. And the father is a Brahmana. When the father dies, does it mean that the son cannot take the dead body of the father out? This is what the verse says. So here in this setting, we have the Bhagavad Gita giving all types of wisdom, of love and benevolence and focusing on your work and all. And then we have the Manusmriti giving all these verses. And then the great Baba Sahib Ambedkar saying, Gita is nothing more than Manu in a nutshell. Well, before I go any further, let me state very clearly that I'm in no way defending the caste system in any shape or form, whether it's birth or by works or anything. I believe it is an extremely evil system that divides its own people. In all religions, rather not in all, like you see in religions like Islam, where they are coming against something called as the non-Muslims and how they are coming against them. And in Christianity also, you see pagans referring to outsiders who are not in the Christian fold. Of course, we don't torment or torture them or throw them out or kill them like we might see in Islam. But then we see in Hinduism that there is a distinction and an oppression of its own people. So in no shape or form do I accept the caste system, neither am I advocating for it. What I'm saying is that for any evil to be vanquished, people need to accept and understand where is the source of that evil. Once you have accepted that what is being taught over here is evil and not try to whitewash it by saying that no, it was formed by the Britishers, no, it was formed by Nehru, or no, it was an adulteration over time because Brahmins are always not by birth, or Shudra is not by birth, it's based on the profession that they do. That is wrong. That is like putting your head in the sand and hoping that things would change. So let me give you a background to the Bhagavad Gita. This is really interesting, so stay with me. So there is the beginning, and this is there in the Mahabharata, not in the Gita. So understand how the Mahabharata and the Gita are tied up together. So the Kauravas and the Pandavas gather together. So there is a war, and Arjuna is in between, and on both the sides there are brothers, cousin brothers, if I can say that. And they are now fighting each other for various issues. I will not get into that. And Arjuna then puts his chariot in between the two warring camps. And then there is Arjuna's moral crisis. So, and you can read this in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, and even in the Mahabharata, which is the Bhishma Parva, it is there. You can read it over there. There are different chapters in the Mahabharata itself, and we read that in the Mahabharata Bhishma Parva chapter 28, and we see that Arjuna, overcome with grief and doubt, declares his will that he will not fight, casting aside his bow and arrows. So he just keeps his Gandiva, which is called the name of that bow. He keeps it on the ground, and you can read the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, and he says, I will not fight them because these are my brothers. These are the ones I grew up with. There are my uncles and my friends, and how can I kill them for anything that is of this world? Let them take everything. I will not fight them at all. And he breaks down in tears. At that time, Krishna, who is a charioteer for Arjuna, convinces him how it is okay to kill his own family members. The entire next 17 chapters is about Krishna convincing Arjuna that it is okay to kill your own brothers. As it is written in the book of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Riddles in Hinduism, he calls this book as a book on fratricide, killing your own fraternity, your own brothers. So then Krishna begins the Gita, and then Krishna reveals his Vishwarupa into him. Then finally Arjuna gets up and goes for the fight. There again we see this in the Mahabharata, in the Bhishma Parva. And then who heard the Gita? Now again there was Arjuna, of course, hearing it, and there was this guy called as Sanjaya, who was sitting with the king, the Dhritarashtra, who was like the king at that time, and his sons were also fighting the war. And Sanjaya has a divine vision, and he could see the war from far away. He has a boon, so he could see the war from far away, and he could see what was happening, and he's narrating it as Krishna is saying it to the king Dhritarashtra. So there are two audiences for the Gita. One is Arjuna. So this whole book, Bhagavad Gita, is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna is supposed to be the Almighty, as he's called, an avatar of Vishnu, who's a god himself. Of course, some in ISKCON believe that Vishnu is an avatar of Krishna and not the other way around. So again, we'll not get into that. And so this is where the controversial verses comes into place. Gita chapter 4 verse 13, the fourfold caste was created by me by the differentiation of guna and karma. Though I am the author thereof, know me to be the non-doer and the changeless. So he says the fourfold caste was created by me. Krishna is saying, so he's the creator or the originator of the fourfold caste and the differentiator basis of guna and karma. So many apologists of Hinduism, if you just do a search, does Gita support caste system, you'll see dozens of videos where they quote only this verse, no other verse, just this verse. And they say it was on the basis of guna and karma. Guna means qualities and karma means actions. So it was only on the basis of qualities and actions. So it was not on the basis of birth. And this is what was explained by Krishna, the God himself, the Lord himself. Honestly speaking, when I was confused when I started reading this. And then in Gita 4.1, Krishna says that he told this imperishable yoga to Vivasat. Vivasat told to Manu, and Manu told it to Shavaku. I hope I am pronouncing this right. So this whole thing, whatever has to be done, the entire caste system and how the governance should work and all, was conveyed by Krishna himself to Manu. And this Manu is the same gentleman who wrote the Manusmriti. Anyway, we'll get into this later because there are two views on that. So moving ahead, we read in Gita chapter 18 verse 40, and we can see over here from verse 42 onwards, of the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas as well as the Shudras, O scorcher of the foes, the duties are distributed according to the gunas born of their own nature. So according to the gunas, and then again in 4 verse 13 he says the differentiation is based on the guna. Guna means qualities. So again, so this might give the impression, but look at what is written in verse 42. The control of the mind and the senses, austerity, purity, forbearance, and also uprightness, knowledge, realization, belief in hereafter, these are the duties of the Brahmanas. Remember the word duties. Duties is the same as dharma. Dharma is from the karma itself. Born of their own nature. Prowess, boldness, 43, that is verse. Prowess, boldness, fortitude, dexterity, also not flying from battle, generosity, and sovereignty are the duties of the Kshatriya born of their own nature. And agriculture, cattle rearing, and trade are the duties of the Vaishyas born of their own nature. And action consisting of service is a duty of the Shudras born of their own nature. So born of their own nature. So whatever is their nature, so the same word that is used in chapter 4 verse 13, guna and the karma. So of their own nature, of their own quality, it is born. And then look at verse number 47. Better is one's own dharma imperfect than the dharma of another well performed. He who does the duty ordained by his own nature incurs no evil. When I had quoted this verse, 18 verse 47, if you remember, I had quoted this earlier when I spoke about the most quoted verses of the Bhagavad Gita just a few minutes back. If you look at the context over here, what Krishna is saying essentially is that if you're born a Brahmana, stick to the duties of a Brahmana, which is given over here in verse 42. If you're born a Kshatriya, stick to the duties, which is a Vaishya, a businessman, then stick to the duties of that. And if you're a Shudra, then stick to the duties of that. So he says, even if you're doing these duties imperfectly, means you're not good at it. Let's assume you're not very smart, like a scared baby all the time, and you are born in the family of a Kshatriya. So you're not meant for fighting. You don't have the body for it, or you don't have the guts for it, you don't have the insight required to pick up a sword or get into a fight and defend. You are happy doing studies like a Brahman, or maybe cleaning and doing toiling the ground like a Shudra, or maybe engage in business. But what Krishna is saying in verse 47 is better if you're doing your own dharma imperfectly. So even if you're born a Kshatriya, stick to being a Kshatriya rather than trying to do something else at which you could probably do better. So Krishna is saying even if you are better at something else, stick to what your dharma is, and your dharma is decided by your birth. But over there 413 looks like a contradiction. So does it? We'll get into that. This is what Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 13. I believe this is the most misquoted verse. As I read earlier, I have created the 4 social divisions that are determined by the influence of the modes of material nature and their parallel activity. Although I have created this arrangement, know that in the reality I am the non-doer and unchangeable. So it is saying that he created basis material nature and their parallel activities, not by birth. That's what people keep repeating. But what does it actually mean? This is another translation, 4 verse 13, the differentiation on the basis of guna and karma. So the question comes, what is the meaning of guna and karma? What is the difference? Now, I can definitely quote you the verses, but then there'll be 50 people in the comments saying that no, you are wrong and all these things. So I'll be quoting for you none other than the Shankaracharya of the Govardhan Peeth, Puri. Shankaracharyas are one of the highest known, most respected teachers of Hinduism in the country of India and even across the world wherever they have their followers. And he is the 145th Shankaracharya of Govardhan Peeth Puri. And this Govardhan Peeth, this fraternity, was created by Adi Shankaracharya in 486 BC. As per what is written on their site, I've given the link over here. So I went to this video again. I cannot go show you the full video end to end. but you can see that videos in the description below. And he's Shankaracharya Nichalanand Saraswati Ji Maharaj. I went through his video. It was so nice to hear somebody speak so clearly. So instead of me giving my logic, I'll tell you what he said. And if you don't believe, you can go to the links in the description below and understand it yourself. And then you can tell me if I've misquoted anything anywhere. Since I'll be translating from Hindi to English, I might be slightly off here and there, but believe me, with due respect to everyone, that is not the intention. So what is guna? This is how he explained it so well. So we have to go back to the Bhagavad Gita chapter 14 verse 5, and there Krishna says that, "Oh mighty armed Arjun," which is the material energy, consists of three guna or modes: sattva, which is goodness; rajas, which is passion; and tamas, which is ignorance. These modes bind the eternal soul to the perishable body. So here Krishna is defining that these three gunas is not what you call as qualities. There you have given over here, that is, there are three qualities, material energy in human being, and which is their sattva, rajas, and tamas. Now, even in this, you might say, oh, okay, that's okay. Some people are inherently good and some people are bad and some people are ignorant and some people are very passionate about their work. So is it? Let us see what the Gita has to say. And again, this logic was given to me by the Shankaracharya himself, or Govardhan Peeth. Himself means I didn't go and meet him. I saw the lecture online. Alright, so in Bhagavad Gita chapter 8 verse 6, again, whatever one remembers, listen to this very carefully. Whatever one remembers upon giving up the body at the time of death, O son of Kunti, one attains that state, being always absorbed in such contemplation. So, guna is what you are meditating in at the time of your death. It's got nothing to do with how you're living your life now. So you cannot look at somebody and say, oh, he's very sattva, means he's good. Or somebody very passionate, say, oh, he's rajas, so he's passionate. Or somebody who's very ignorant like a fool and you say, oh, he's tamas. No. This was defined as per the Gita at the time of your death. So when a person is dying at very moment, whatever he is focused on, that becomes his guna in the next life. And this again we see in the next reference quote over here. So did you actually think that karma is based on your actions? Well, you're sadly, ridiculously mistaken. This definition of karma, that you do good and you get good and all those things, this is nothing other than Hollywood BS. They have no understanding of what karma actually is all about. We have made videos about it, but they like to keep repeating nonsense all the time. So karma is actually, you read this in same again Gita chapter 15 verse 2. The branches of the tree extend upward and downward, nourished by the three gunas, the branches of the tree of life as it is called, with the objects of the senses as tender buds. The roots of the tree being hung downward, casting the flow of karma in the human body. Below its roots branch out. So the roots branch out, casting karma action in the world of humans. So the roots are below the ground, and it says very well, if you read the first part, the branches of the roots of the tree upwards and downwards, nourished by the three gunas. So the guna is something that you are contemplating at the time of your death, and that founds the base of your karma in the next direction, in the next life. Read the second part, you can see it very well. Below its roots branch out, causing karma actions in the world of humans. So the roots are what? Guna, and the branches which comes out that you see is the karma. I hope you're getting it. So if somebody is being pious and studious or something, he cannot necessarily be called as Brahmin. I'll explain again why. Then again, karma based on your gunas. We see this in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 verse 5. There is no one who can remain without action, which is karma, even for a moment. Indeed, all things are compelled to act by their qualities, which is the same guna, born of material nature, the three gunas. So again, you see, everybody is compelled for karma based on their gunas. The gunas is something that you're contemplating at the time of your death, and then you're born into it. So you see, you're born into that karma. Now we see again something from the very first chapter itself, that is 1 verse 43. He says, though the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give right to unwanted progeny, in variety of social and family welfare activities are ruined. So this unwanted progeny, which is in the first chapter in itself, where Arjuna speaks about this unwanted progeny, you know what is that? Somebody getting married in an inter-caste marriage. Unwanted progeny, and they say that it ruins your social and family welfare activities. Nowhere in the Gita does Krishna contradict whatever Arjuna has said at this time. People say, no, this was said by Arjuna. It was not said by Krishna. So whatever Arjuna says is fallible, so it is fine. But nowhere does Krishna correct. But then we also see in Manusmriti chapter 3 verse 12 that for the first marriage of twice born men, wives of equal caste are recommended. But for those who desire proceed the following females according to the direct correct order of caste are most approved. It is declared that a Shudra woman alone the wife of Shudra, and she and one of his own caste the wife of a Vaishya, those two and one of his own caste the wife of a Kshatriya, and those three of wife of his own caste of a Brahmana. A Shudra woman is not even mentioned in any of the ancient stories as the first wife of a Brahmana or a Kshatriya, though they lived in the greatest distress. Twice born men who in their own folly wed wives of the low Shudra caste soon degrade their families and their children to the state of Shudras. So twice born men, this will be the top three caste: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. They are called as a twice born, Vijaya as it is called. So they are born, and if they have a child with a different woman of a different caste, then that child is always a Shudra. It never attained the caste of the father of the upper caste. So whatever Arjuna said was confirmed by Manu, and Manu, whatever is written, as Arjuna said earlier, he is the one who had given the content to Manu to write. And then we see in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 32, we see, for taking refuge in me, they, O Arjuna, may be of a sinful birth. Women, Vaishyas and Shudras can attain the supreme goal. Now this sound at the first looks so good, that no matter what their birth, if they take refuge in Krishna, they can attain the supreme goal and go to be with Krishna. Well, there is a mistranslation over here. Let me show you. This is what the verse actually says. The verse that speaks about sinful birth as it is written. The word is Papa Yonaya. You can see this over here. You can check it yourself online. So you can see, put it in Google Translate and you can see one of the translations of that verse, Yonaya, is, I'm sorry, but I have to say this, simply means a vagina. So a sinful vagina means like a sinful birth, a sinful womb. Now, I'm from here, I know what the word means. You can check it on Google Translate yourself. So it is not just of a lower birth or something, it speaks about a sinful womb. And look at this, I have put the word over here in the same website, and you can say Papa Yonaya, of low birth. So even Krishna says that Krishna under no circumstance is negating caste system by birth, because in verse 9 verse 32 it says, O Arjuna, may be of a sinful birth, a woman, a Vaishya and a Shudra. So sinful birth, right? Not sinful action. So Krishna here is accepting that those births are of a Vaishya and Shudra are from a sinful womb. So how can a caste system be on the basis of their actions? Really surprising. And one more thing, if you can notice over here, may be of a sinful birth. For taking refuge in me, they who, Arjuna, may be of a sinful birth. And the first thing it says is a woman. So even a woman is considered as a sinful birth. You can read it yourself. You can check the references yourself. I've given you the screenshots over here. You can check the references yourself and online versions of the Bhagavad Gita. So a few quick questions for those of you who are still saying that caste system is basis their actions and not of their birth. I have proven beyond a shadow of doubt that even the Bhagavad Gita speaks about caste system only and only from their birth and not basis of their actions. So a few quick questions. First of all, show me the progress from the religious text that a Brahman can be called as a Shudra or a Shudra can be upgraded into a Brahman. That's the first question. If you have the answers, please put it in the comment section. Then, as you remember, when I'd shown you in the beginning earlier, that is, the Gita was narrated actually at the beginning of the Mahabharata war. So a few questions from the Mahabharata war itself. So Dronacharya, who was like the teacher of all the Pandavas and the Kauravas, including Arjuna himself, they were both, Dronacharya and his son, were fighting in a war. As per this verse, they should have been called. So for those people who believe that the caste is on the basis of their actions or their profession, and that the caste is on the basis of the profession and not their birth, so by that definition, Dronacharya and his son should be called as a Kshatriya, because they were teaching people how to fight and they were fighting themselves. But they are still called Brahmins. Literally so much so that he was son of Rishi Bharadwaj, so that's why he's called as a Brahmin. Then you see Parshuram, who is again supposed to be an avatar of Vishnu himself, or Krishna in other words. He's supposed to have wiped out all the Kshatriyas on the face of the earth. Literally he kills all of them with an axe. All the Kshatriyas on the face of the earth. But he is not called as a Kshatriya. Even though he was in war with all the Kshatriyas on earth, but he's still called as a Brahmin. Parshuram was the son of the Brahmin sage Jamdagini and Renuka. He fought a war, killed thousands upon thousands, millions of Kshatriyas, but he's still called a Brahmin. He is not called as a Kshatriya. Why? Next, Karna, one of the warriors who fought against Arjuna. He was a much better warrior than Arjuna. Much better. So much so that Krishna had to think of deceit to kill Karna. He couldn't even be defeated in a fair fight by Arjuna. But Krishna always refers to Karna as the son of a servant. He is never called as a Kshatriya. So if Krishna believed and wanted to teach to the world that caste system is on the basis of action and profession, not on birth, why is he calling Karna as the son of a servant and not a Kshatriya? Then we see Eklavya was not a Kshatriya. He was a tribal boy, but he was a much, 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 much better archer than Arjuna. He wanted to learn under Dronacharya but was turned away. Then later on, Dronacharya asked for his thumb as an offering so that he doesn't become a bigger archer than Arjuna. Why did not Dronacharya give him the title of a Kshatriya? He was a tribal, means like an outcast. So I challenge all the people, all the watchers who believe that caste is on the basis of profession. Show me just one instance, just one, where Krishna referred to somebody in the caste of the profession and not on the basis of birth, even though they are in contradiction. Just show me one. There is none. Let us look into detail of the Mahabharata event of Eklavya. This was really very devastating. And so we see this there in the Sambhava Parva, and we see that Dronacharya is with his Arjuna in the forest, and they are there, and he is, and you can read it over here yourself. The entire, I've quoted verbatim from the Mahabharata, and we can see that Eklavya had gone to Dronacharya to learn, but he turns him away because he was only teaching the sons of kings and princes. He turns it away, but he sets up a statue, and in front of the statue, he practices, and becomes so good that he's better than Arjuna. Eklavya says Dronacharya face to face, he falls at his feet and worships him and says, "You are my guru, my teacher." In those times, there was something called as a Guru Dakshina, like the guru or the teacher should be given an offering. And Dronacharya says, "I want an offering." And Eklavya says, "What do you want?" Dronacharya says, "I want your thumb." Now, without the thumb, how are you going to shoot an arrow? Without thinking twice, Eklavya takes out his knife and shears off his thumb and offers it to the one whom he called as a guru. Just thinking about it makes my hair stand on end. In the name of caste system, in the very books of Hinduism, we can see example after example after example, and still people say that no, this is not on the basis of birth, but on the basis of professions or action. Millions upon millions upon millions of Dalits and Shudras are deprived of even basic human rights in this country. And you should remember that this formation, many people say that this formation of the caste system was done by the British. So was it the British? My quick question to you. Was it the British who came and cut off the thumb of Eklavya? Or was it Nehru or Savarkar and all those people, or the Mughals, as people say in India nowadays, that they are the ones who formed the caste system in the country? Absolutely not. In every step of Hindu literature, caste system is ingrained, embedded as a system of created from birth itself. So a few more questions. This was raised again by the Shankaracharya Nishalananda. So a few more questions. Let us quickly go through it. If you have answers to any of this, please put it down in the comment section. First, if the caste changes as per profession of the person, then how many times will the caste of a person change in a day? Because it's very well possible that somebody gets up in the morning and is sweeping the yard, goes up and maybe cleans some cars or comes back for some extra money or something. And then he goes to office where he's a teacher. So in the morning, he's a Shudra. In the afternoon, he's a teacher. In the evening, maybe he stands up to protecting the rights of an animal or of another human being who's being maybe done wrong to. So is he a Kshatriya? So how does it work? And in the evening time, if he goes setting up an online business, then does he become a Vaishya? So how many times will the caste system change in a day? How will you know? Second, a mother in a Brahmin household, she will not be averse to maybe cleaning the excreta of her children. So does she mean that this Brahmin woman is now a Shudra? Now there is something that needs to be thought about. This was really great teaching by the Shankaracharya himself. So when a singer is born, is he born a singer or becomes one after growing up? Think about it. A singer is born a singer. The qualities of a singer are ingrained in him. In the same way, Hinduism believes karma or the action or a profession of a person is ingrained in him before he is born. So a Shudra is born with the karmic profession of cleaning and doing the menial jobs. A Brahmana is born with the tendencies and the professional qualities of being a wise man. And that's what he says. Or a vessel for holding water and milk. So the vessel comes first and then you put the water into it. So the vessel is already formed for holding the water and the milk. Think about it. What comes first, a right or a duty? What comes first? Of course, a right and authority comes first, right? So a policeman is first authorized to maybe watch the traffic, and only then can he fulfill his duty of maybe taking care of the traffic. If he's reprimanded for not following his duty. If he is rewarded for following his duty. So the authority comes first, the duty comes later on. So the authority or the possibility of doing the profession is ingrained at the time of birth itself. And just think about it. A nose comes first, right? And then you breathe through it. So is it possible that you look at some part of the body and say, oh, he's breathing from here, that means that part is the nose? No. You look at the nose and then you see that he is capable of breathing from the nose. Look at the hand and the functions of the hand are ingrained in the hand itself. That is how the caste system works in Hinduism. They are made that way, and that's why they are working in that profession. The profession doesn't define the mold defines the profession. I can just quote so many verses on, and we see in the Kandogya Upanishad, which is again a very respected book. Among them, 5, 10, and 7. Among them, those who did good work in this world, in their past life. Listen to this. In their past life, has a good birth according. They are born as a Brahmin, a Kshatriya, or a Vaishya. But those who did bad work in the world, in the past life, attain a bad birth, accordingly being born a dog, a pig, or a casteless person. So they are born that way. It is not something that it is based on profession, it is based on a birth. I would like to bring your attention to this last two words, casteless person. Listen to this. This is how it was done, the caste system in Hinduism. So from the Brahman, not the Brahmin, the Brahman, who's supposed to be the supreme deity. From his head came the Brahmins, from his biceps came the warriors or the Kshatriyas, from his thighs came the Vaishyas, and from his feet came the Shudras. So when Krishna says in chapter 4 verse 13 that he created the four Varnas, he never even mentions the fifth Varna, which is the Dalits or the outcasts. They are the ones who clear the human waste, who carry the dead bodies of animals and street sweepers and all. And they are like hundreds of millions of Dalits in this country. Their life doesn't even count. So in the Kandogya Upanishad, this is what is written. He's born as a casteless person if he does bad. So how it works, or traditionally how it is they see a person suffering, that is constituted as a part of his past life, his past karma. So if somebody is a Dalit, he is suffering the fruits of his past life. So then it is okay to torture and oppress the person. And if you look at this Kandogya Upanishad verse, somebody who does bad in their past life will be born as a dog or a pig or a casteless person. So a casteless person, a human being who is without a caste, is at the level of a dog or a pig. This is Hinduism text itself. It is not something that I made up. And because of that, we see tons and tons of such instances. Minors, Dalit beaten up, Dalit man beaten to death for asking his wages in UP Sultanpur. Dalit man beaten with sticks for drinking water from tap, and he dies. Dalit man beaten to death in Maharashtra over suspected theft of two-wheeler. Dalit man beaten up, urinated upon by 6 in Andhra Pradesh, which is like a state in India. Can you believe the level to which they degrade a human being? Dalit man beaten to death, mother stripped in Madhya Pradesh. UP Sultanpur, Dalit youth beaten to death for demanding 1200 rupees in wages. Just 1200 rupees, which in today's conversion would be less than $15. Yes, like what, as per the latest per hour wage, it is like less than 1 hour of wage in California, minimum wage. So he asked maybe the 1200, maybe of a few days of work that he must have done. He asked for the money and he was beaten to death. So many heart-rendering images are there on the net. And you can see them, read about them day in and day out. These are the Dalits. My question to those people who still insist on Krishna speaking about the caste system being from profession that they do, that the work they do and not by their birth. Why didn't Krishna mention the fifth Avarna? What about them? Do they not count in Krishna's creation? It is so sad to see this. No wonder that in the annihilation of caste, the great Baba Sahib Ambedkar says that the Hindu religion is the only religion in the world that sanctions caste, and the Gita is its sacred foundation. And then he says the caste is a state of mind. It's a disease of the mind. The teachings of the Hindu religion are the root cause of this disease. I am really speechless in the way that he has summarized it. On the other side, there's the good news of the words of Christ. We are sinful, we are helpless, we are bound in these vague theologies, in this vague animosity against our own fellow human beings, which leads us to eternal death, and that's the cross of Calvary, that Jesus Christ laid down his life for you and me, and God made a way. He is holy, He is loving, and He is offering you eternal life in Christ Jesus. And we have in the Holy Bible many verses like Galatians chapter 3 verse 28, there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for all are one in Christ Jesus. And even in the first chapter of Genesis, we see that God created man and woman. He didn't create a Brahman from the head and a Kshatriya from the biceps and Shudras from the feet and Vaishyas from the thighs and the Dalits who are really non-existent. No. In the Bible, we see that man was created, just a man and woman, by God Himself. And then, of course, the verse is there, John chapter 3, verse 16, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoso believeth in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. In my future videos, I'll be getting into evidence of what is the Dalits, what constitutes as the untouchables. We'll get into more deeper theological understandings of what constitutes the Hindu religion and what constitutes its basic teachings. So stay with me on that. And again, in closing, this is not meant to offend anyone, but it is meant to discuss in a very open manner about what is written in the Hindu scriptures. I look forward to your comments and queries. I look forward to learning myself. So thank you again for being with us. I really hope that you enjoyed and you learned. Looking forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care. God bless you.